Welcome back to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today we are going to explore a surprising and fascinating topic, urban beekeeping. Yes, you heard that right. Beekeeping in the middle of busy, modern cities. Maybe, when you think of bees, you imagine fields of flowers in the countryside, or colorful farms far away from tall buildings and traffic. But in many cities around the world, bees are now living on rooftops, balconies, and even in small community gardens. In this episode, we will talk about what urban beekeeping is, why it is becoming more popular, how it works in practice, and what challenges and benefits it brings to city life. So, get comfortable and let's dive into the buzzing world of bees in the city. First, what exactly is urban beekeeping? Urban beekeeping means keeping bee colonies in cities instead of in rural areas. Usually, the bees are kept in wooden boxes called hives, which are placed on flat roofs, in private gardens, or in shared spaces like community centers or city farms. These bees are usually honeybees. They collect nectar and pollen from flowers in parks, gardens, balconies, and even from trees that grow along the streets. The beekeeper takes care of the bees, checks their health, and sometimes collects honey and beeswax. You might be surprised to learn that cities can actually be quite good places for bees. Many cities have a wide variety of plants all year round, especially if there are parks, riverbanks, and people who enjoy gardening on their balconies. Now, why has urban beekeeping become so popular in recent years? One big reason is concern about the environment. Around the world, bee populations have been falling. This is a serious problem because bees are important pollinators. Pollination is the process of moving pollen from one flower to another, which helps plants produce fruits, seeds, and vegetables. Without bees and other pollinators, many crops would produce less food. This affects farmers, food prices, and biodiversity, which means the variety of life in an area. When people heard that bees were in danger, many wanted to help. Urban beekeeping became a way for city residents to feel that they were doing something positive for nature. Another reason is the local food movement. More and more people want to know where their food comes from. They like the idea of fresh local honey produced just a few streets away from their homes. Some restaurants and small shops proudly use honey from their own rooftops. There is also a social and educational side. Urban beekeeping can bring people together. Schools invite beekeepers to teach children about insects, plants, and ecosystems. Community groups set up shared hives and organize events where people can learn, taste honey, and build connections with their neighbors. Now, let's talk about how urban beekeeping actually works in a city. Imagine you live in an apartment building with a flat roof. A local beekeeping association visits your building and checks if the roof is safe, stable, and allowed by local rules. If everything is fine, they set up a few hives. Each hive is like a small city of bees. There can be tens of thousands of bees in one hive. Inside, there is one queen bee, many worker bees, and some drones. The worker bees are usually female, and they do most of the jobs, such as collecting nectar, building honeycomb, feeding the young bees, and protecting the hive. The beekeeper visits the hives regularly, usually every 1 or 2 weeks during the warmer months. They wear protective clothes, such as a suit and a hat with a net, to avoid being stung. They open the hive carefully and check that the bees are healthy and that the queen is laying eggs. If the colony is strong and has more honey than it needs, the beekeeper may take some of the honey. They do this gently, leaving enough for the bees to survive the winter. In some cities, there are professional companies that manage hives for businesses, hotels, and museums. A hotel might have hives on its roof and serve its own honey at breakfast. A museum might use bees as part of an exhibition about nature in the city. Of course, keeping bees in a crowded area is not as simple as placing a box on a roof. There are rules, responsibilities, and also some misunderstandings. Let's look at the benefits and challenges of urban beekeeping. First, the benefits. One clear benefit is pollination. Bees help trees, flowers, and gardens in the city. When bees visit the flowers, they help plants reproduce, which supports local biodiversity. This can make cities greener, more colorful, and more pleasant places to live. Another benefit is environmental awareness. When people see hives in their neighborhood or buy honey from a local rooftop, they start to think more about nature. even if they live in a very built-up area. They may become more interested in planting flowers, protecting green spaces, or supporting environmental policies. Urban beekeeping can also provide small economic opportunities. Some hobby beekeepers sell their honey at local markets. Others create products like candles, soaps, or lip balms from beeswax. While this is usually not a huge business, it can be a nice extra income and a source of pride. In addition, there is an emotional benefit. Many beekeepers describe working with bees as calming and satisfying. Watching bees move in and out of the hive, observing their complex behavior, and feeling connected to the natural world can reduce stress and improve mental well-being. However, urban beekeeping also has challenges and risks. One challenge is safety and fear. Some people are afraid of bees, and sometimes they confuse bees with wasps. Wasps are often more aggressive, especially around human food. When new hives are installed in a neighborhood, some residents worry about being stung or about children and pets being in danger. Responsible beekeepers need to communicate with their neighbors. They explain how honeybees behave, where the hives are placed, and how they reduce risks. For example, they may position the hive entrance so the bees fly high above people's heads when they leave the hive. Another challenge is regulation. Different cities have different rules about keeping bees. In some places, you must register your hives with the local government. There may be limits on how many hives you can keep, or how close they can be to schools or hospitals. These rules exist to protect both people and bees. They help prevent overcrowding of hives in one area, which could lead to competition for food or the spread of disease between colonies. There is also a scientific debate about whether adding many honeybee hives to a city is always a good idea. Some researchers say that too many honeybees might compete with wild bees and other insects for food. Wild bees are also important pollinators, and some species are already under threat. Because of this, many experts suggest a balanced approach. They say that if you want to help pollinators, you should not only keep bees, you should also plant more flowers, protect wild habitats, and avoid using harmful chemicals in gardens and parks. So, how can ordinary city residents support bees even if they do not have space or time to keep a hive? There are several simple actions you can take. You can plant bee-friendly flowers on your balcony, in your garden, or in shared spaces. Bees love a variety of flowers, especially those that bloom at different times of the year. This gives them food from early spring to late autumn. You can choose plants that are native to your region. Native plants are usually better for local insects and birds. They are adapted to the climate and often need less water and care. You can also avoid using pesticides, which are chemicals that kill insects. Some pesticides harm bees and other helpful creatures. If you need to control pests, try natural methods first, such as encouraging ladybugs, which eat plant-eating insects. Another way to support bees is by buying local honey from responsible beekeepers. This helps small producers and encourages sustainable practices. If you are really interested, you can join a beekeeping course. Many cities now offer beginner classes where you can learn about bee biology, hive management, and safety. Even if you never become a beekeeper, you will probably look at insects and flowers in a new way. Now, let's look at some examples of urban beekeeping around the world. In Paris, the capital of France, there are famous beehives on the roof of the Opera House. These bees fly over historic buildings and parks, collecting nectar from trees and flowers planted along the streets. The honey produced there is sold as a special local product. In New York City, there are hives on many rooftops, including hotels, office buildings, and even some public institutions. After a period when beekeeping was not allowed, the city changed its rules and started to welcome responsible hive owners. In London, many schools and community gardens have beekeeping projects. Children learn to put on protective suits, open a hive, and observe the bees. This practical experience helps them understand topics like biology, climate change, and food systems. In Tokyo, some companies have started keeping bees on their office roofs. Employees can visit the hives during special events. It becomes a unique team activity and a symbol of the company's interest in sustainability. These examples show that urban beekeeping can fit into many different types of cities, from old European capitals to modern Asian metropolises. At this point, you might be wondering, is urban honey safe to eat, since it comes from a polluted city? Several studies have tested honey from cities and compared it to honey from the countryside. The results are usually positive. While cities do have pollution, bees mainly collect nectar from flowers, not from dirty surfaces. In many cases, urban honey has similar or even lower levels of certain chemicals than rural honey. Of course, this depends on local conditions, and regular testing is important. But generally, experts agree that honey from responsible urban beekeepers is safe and delicious. Another interesting question is, do bees get stressed in the city with all the noise and movement? Bees experience the world differently from humans. They are sensitive to light, temperature, smells, and magnetic fields. City sounds like car horns or music probably do not bother them in the same way they bother us. What matters more for bees is the availability of flowers, clean water, and safe nesting places. If a city offers these, bees can do quite well. In fact, some studies show that bees in cities can be healthier than bees near industrial farms, where pesticides are used heavily and there is less variety of plants. So, what can we learn from urban beekeeping besides some new vocabulary and an interesting story for your next English conversation? First, it teaches us that nature is not only far away in forests and mountains, it is also around us, in small but powerful forms, even in busy streets and tall buildings. Second, it shows how human choices shape the environment. When city planners, business owners, and ordinary residents decide to support green spaces and pollinators, they can slowly change the character of a city. Third, it reminds us that small actions can have wider effects. A single hive on a rooftop will not save the planet, but many small projects together can change attitudes, create networks, and inspire bigger decisions. Finally, urban beekeeping is a good example of how traditions can adapt to modern life. Beekeeping is an ancient practice, thousands of years old. Today, it is finding a new role in our modern, digital, and urban world. As you continue your English learning journey, you can use this topic in many ways. You can practice discussing environmental issues. You can describe processes, like how honey is made or how a hive works. You can also practice giving your opinion about whether cities should support more projects like this. Before we finish, let's review some useful words and phrases from this episode. Urban beekeeping, keeping bee colonies in cities. Hive, the structure where bees live, often a wooden box for managed bees. Pollination, the process of moving pollen between flowers so plants can produce fruit and seeds. Biodiversity, the variety of life in a particular place. Colony, a large group of bees living together in one hive. Pesticides, chemicals used to kill insects or other pests. Sustainability, using resources in a way that does not damage the environment and can continue in the future. You can try to use these words in your own sentences or explain the ideas to a friend. Teaching someone else is a powerful way to remember new language. Thank you for listening to Kuma English Listening Hub. Next time you walk through your city, look around. You might notice flowers in a small garden, a green rooftop, or even a box of bees quietly doing their important work. Keep listening, keep learning, and see you in the next episode.